Hello and welcome back to the Rugby League Hub podcast, a weekly podcast in which we discuss the goings-on of the Rugby League world. Joining me in the studio again, as always, is Ross Williams. How are we doing?
Not too bad, Andrew. How about you?
I'm alright, very much. We'll start it off this week with the news, and quite a bit of news after last week was a bit barren.
Yeah, it was a bit quiet, wasn't it?
But we'll kick it off this week with sort of a big headline that Wayne Bennett's been reported to say is the England coach until 2020. Right decision, or do you think you would have changed it?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously he's got us further than any coach has since 1995. He got us to the World Cup final, 6 points away from beating Australia. I was probably up for him staying on board. However, obviously the story says that he's on board till 2020, with the World Cup being in 2021. So that is, I think I'd prefer to have my coach going for the next 4 years. I'm sure you'll go into the rest of the story. That's not what's been reported. So,
as you just mentioned, the rest of the story is sort of the next coach being there for the next 4 years. But it's reported Darryl Powell will take over. He'll spend 2 years as an assistant, and then the rest, the next 2 years, as taking over the main role. Whether or not that's going to come through is obviously, we don't know yet, but what would you make of that decision?
It's interesting. I think because a lot of people for probably the best part of the last 2 years, I think have been kind of clamouring for Powell to just take over full time, or maybe not full time, but split his time with Castleford and but take on the head coach role. It is a little bit interesting that he'd go in as assistant coach. 'Cause realistically, what does an assistant coach really do throughout the year? Obviously, Dennis Betts has been in the role. Is it much more than a glorified scout throughout the year when Wayne Bennett's over in Australia? Probably not watching a great deal of Super League, Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think if you're going to bring Powell in, I'd personally prefer him to be a head coach from the off, instill his style of play now, rather than waiting 2 years down the line where, if he potentially takes over in 2020, then we're talking a year out from the World Cup. Not a great deal of time. If it's not going too well under Bennett, then it could be a bit of a missed opportunity, really.
Yeah, I think I'm very much the same as you. I think if when he gets the job, he's only a year out from a World Cup, that it's only a year to implement his style, and if he's being an assistant, he's not going to be putting his style into the team. It's still going to be Bennett's style. So I think, for me, the right decision would probably be give it him now, and if he wants it. But for me, I think England have probably shot themselves in the foot offering this assistant role. I think
possibly so.
A coach of his calibre at the moment, it's a bit of an insult.
It could be,
really.
It
to
could,
say,
could be argued.
do you want to be an assistant that's basically going to watch the English side of the game because we don't quite think you're ready enough for the permanent England top job?
Yeah, it sounds to me a little bit like they've kind of bowed down to Bennett, and Bennett's because they obviously wanted to stay loyal to him because of what he did this in the off season, which is fair enough. But it also seems to me like Bennett has turned around and went, yes, I will take the job, but I don't want it for 4 years. I think England probably offered him. I think England probably offered Bennett the job till 2022, and I think he's most likely to turn it down. So, it does seem like insult's a strong word, but possibly to Powell, a coach of his calibre with the reputation he's gathered over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think they could look to the future more and offer it to Powell there, rather than, I'm not sort of saying we're stuck in the past with Bennett, because as you said, he's got us further than anyone had ever done before. He's done a really good job with sort of what he's got, but compared to the likes of Australia, there's always just that argument in the back of people's minds that does he really watch Super League? Because he has his other commitments in Australia.
Yeah.
But moving on to the next piece of news, it might become a bit easier for Mr. Bennett to get involved in the English game. NRL have decided, Sky Sports have decided to cover the NRL. They've given them a deal until the end, or deal till 2020. First of all, what do we make?
2022, which is kind of key, to be honest. To that.
What do you make of the decision, first of all, to cover the games?
First of all, everyone listens to this, first and foremost, the fans of Rugby League, it's great news.
Yeah.
It's great news for us. I think read on to the deal, I think they're showing 3 NRL games a weekend. You're getting the Nines, I believe. You're getting the All-Star game, Australian Test matches, and perhaps most importantly to a lot of fans, State of Origin. A lot of people have. I know people who, when it's been on Premier Sports, have kind of just bought subscriptions just for that week or those 3 weeks, or watched it via ulterior means. Which is like, don't do that; it's illegal.
Don't know what you're on
Don't
about.
do that; it's illegal. But yeah, it's great news for fans that the NRL is going to be on Sky Sports. It's interesting, as I say, because 2022 is a year after the Super League deal ends, which we discussed at length last week, didn't we? So this is 2 separate deals. This is not linked to the Super League one at all.
Yep.
Which begs the question: if the NRL now have basically 4 or 5 years to kind of grow a real audience for the NRL on their channels, if the audience is doing well, if they're getting decent numbers in, are they going to turn around in 4 years' time and go, well, sorry Super League, we've already got a Rugby League product for people are watching, why should we pay money for your product?
Yeah, and like you said, it's sort of, do Sky see the future in Super League if they're going to invest in NRL and give them a longer contract? We could be sat here in years' time and go, oh, well, we had the contract, they didn't want to improve it at that time, and they could scrap NRL after the 5 years because not many people are watching and keep on Super League. It could be the other way around, but I think just looking at it from purely a fan's point of view, it's incredible because, as you mentioned, there's so many games that we can watch now that weren't necessarily available to us through the platforms that they now are, and it's only, I think, in a way, it could probably help Super League grow a little bit as well.
Yeah, for sure.
People are watching NRL and they see the quality of that match, which sometimes are higher than the Super League ones.
Yeah.
And then they see, oh, well, this is Rugby League, and then they go, oh, well, on later today or tomorrow is Catalans versus someone. They go, oh, well, I'll switch on and watch that one as well because I enjoyed today's Rugby League match. So I think there is potential for it to help, but as you mentioned, there is the potential to hinder.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be. I mean, people are probably sceptical that Sky Sports will drop the Super League in favour of the NRL with it being a foreign league, and maybe so. But I think there is a little bit of kind of precedent for it. I mean, I think it was ITV4 a few years back. They had the Indian Premier League, the IPL in cricket. They didn't have the County Championship. They didn't have T20. They didn't have the English game, but this exciting top level game abroad, they decided to broadcast that league. So there is precedent for it, and it really depends on what audience they kind of get. For these NRL games, I mean, obviously the vast majority will be the same audience they get for Super League. Yeah. But it just depends how many more on top of that they get.
Very much up for debate. We'll just have to see how it plays out. But as you mentioned, for the core Rugby League fans, it's a very exciting deal and exciting time, really. Yeah,
for sure. And if nothing else, it should at least garner some attention for the internationals as well. Just being able to see this international league on a weekly basis.
Yeah, and from one TV deal to another, slightly less scale, but Free Sports have announced a deal with the NCL to to broadcast some of the NCL games this season. Yeah. And after Saturday's game, Fev Lions versus Thato, that was broadcast on the BBC Online, a great match to really advertise the lower leagues and show that, there is talent in these squads. And I think Luke Robinson was on commentary and he mentioned that, there's players in them teams that were playing Championship League One rugby literally last season and have dropped down. And there is talent in that league, and this deal is gonna allow to promote that.
Yeah, I think it is brilliant. It came out yesterday, and it's just a fantastic development for the sport, I think. Fair play, Free Sports, really got behind it. Seeing they're putting the Backchat show, they're putting that back on TV. They're really trying to make some strides for esports. Obviously, they've put Rugby AM. They've got the weekly show on their national TV, and to be fair to the Rugby AM lads, they're the driving force behind this. And fair play to Alex Simmons, James Jones-Buchanan for pushing this forward. It's fantastic for the conference teams to get the kind of exposure they're going to get. They're going to be all over the country watching these teams. Down the fixture list, I don't think they're even going to two teams to go into a team twice. I think they go into all different sides. It's brilliant, and it just shows, there is more to rugby league than just the Super League and the NRL. It's going to be. We've discussed it before. It's going to be a little bit crazy that the conference is probably going to get more coverage than the Championship.
Yeah, very crazy.
To say it's two tiers above, but it is what it is, and any coverage is good coverage. We were on about this last week about exposure, and this is a great development, I think.
Yeah, if this can sort of be a stepping stone in a way for someone else to come in and pick up the Championship, then so be it.
Yep.
If one of the broadcasts we've already mentioned comes in, picks the Championship up, or if someone else comes in who's out of the picture and starts broadcasting that, then again it's just more exposure for the game and growing the game, which is what it needs, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, all of a sudden you've got, like I said, we discussed it last week at length, and all of a sudden you've got the BBC, you've got Sky Sports, Free Sports and Premier who do the Toronto game. Suddenly you've got 4 different broadcasters broadcasting rugby league. I mean, you look at it, just this past weekend, you could watch games from Ellen Road on the Thursday to Wollongong, New South Wales and England, on Saturday morning. And then, you're Perpignan Saturday night, and in between you're in Featherstone, in the Millpond Stadium. So it's fantastic, the variation we've kind of had this weekend, and long may that continue. Yeah,
as you said, the more games that are on TV, the more entertainment for us, really.
Exactly, can't fault it.
That'll wrap up the news for this week, and we'll move on to the Super League games, running through them in order this week. And we kicked off on Thursday night with the Huddersfield Giants versus the Warrington Wolves. Not the best game for the neutral. Warrington still without a win. Huddersfield grabbing a 20 points to 6 victory. What do we make of that game on Thursday?
Conditions seemed tough over in Huddersfield. Well, I was in Huddersfield myself. I can tell you conditions were tough at the time. But Rick Stone's team just kind of played it better, I would say. And difficult times for Warrington. I think I predicted them to come third in the table, and now, I know a lot of people were kind of a lot more sceptical and said they were going to finish probably 7th, 8th, something like that. They weren't going to bounce back quite the way some people thought, and it's kind of coming to pass. I know it's really early days, but it's just not quite clicking for the Wolves just yet, and still without a win. They need to sort it out, don't they?
Yeah, as you mentioned, they was tipped for a lot of good things this year. Everyone said they got a new coaching staff coming in. It's going to push them up, and this can finally be their year. As always, the joke is.
Yeah.
But early on, it's not really clicked, and you could say that's expected for a new coach.
Yeah,
coming in.
It's going to take time.
With players that he's not coached before. And the players he has brought in, such as Tyrone Roberts, wasn't playing in that match.
Yeah.
Injured. Not sure about the severity of that injury.
Yeah, it's going to be big.
But if he's out for a number of weeks, it's going to be a big loss for that Warrington side, because in attack they've not really shown that much for me.
No, not a great deal. But on the flip side, full credit to Huddersfield. I think now they put together a great performance on Thursday night against Warrington, and the week before, they were right in it against Hull. Hull kind of blew them away at the back end, but they're winning at half time. So they've put together 1.5 out of 2 games. They put together 1.5 really good performances, to be fair, of Huddersfield. And we discussed them before the start of the season that they were very kind of unpredictable. We weren't quite sure.
It was a curious case.
Yeah, we weren't sure what we were going to see from Huddersfield, and there's some real talent in that squad, and they seem quite close knit. There wasn't a great deal of turnover in the off season. And Rick Stone's doing a good job over there. I think dark horse, is that a word? Is that a word we can use for Huddersfield?
Yeah, I'd say so. They're looking a lot stronger than some people thought, because we give them a little bit of credit and said it depends on how they start. If they start well, then they can use that momentum, but if they don't, they might struggle.
Yeah.
But Jake Marmo's come back, and you just used the word dark horse for the team, but he's also a dark horse for personal accolades, really.
Yep.
If he can perform well like he did against Warrington, little grubbers chiming in the back of that line, he's going to be a vital player for them this year. And if
he's
he can
dynamic,
perform,
isn't he? Yeah,
he's going to push that side forward for me.
Yeah, he's a real talent. I really rated him last year when I saw him. I know he picked up the injury towards the back end, but he seems to be hitting that kind of form that he had at his peak last season. If he can keep that up and stay fit all year, then he's a really, really talented fullback, potentially one of the best in the league.
Yeah, on his day, you wouldn't bet against him. Also on Thursday night, we had the Leeds Rhinos taking on Hull KR. Danny Maguire coming against his former side for the first time. but it was Jimmy Keinhorst who took the headlines. Everyone's favourite German international.
Yeah.
Probably the only one people could mention.
Yeah, try and name another one. I can't.
I've got one for you, Brad Billsborough. There you go.
There we go. Look at that.
Saints reserve side.
Knowledge
Here. That's what you get listening to this podcast. But yeah, Rhinos sort of scraped past KR in the end. 20 points to 11 victory. What did you make of Leeds' performance in that game, first of all?
Well, obviously the game played at Ellen Road, and it was like the rest of the players were Headingley, to be honest. Like the first half an hour, it was poor, to be honest. Like they really didn't come out of the blocks at all. They did against Warrington in week 1, and they looked not incredible, but they put together a decent 80-minute performance. They really didn't set off quick enough at all against OKR, and credit to KR. I mean, they put up a really good scrap, and probably just not enough quality. They're down the pivot line of the field. I think they needed just a little bit more, and that's just the squad they have, unfortunately. You know what I mean? But in terms of effort, determination, that kind of thing, fair play to OKR. They had a great travel and support down there at Ellen Road, and I think they did them kind of proud, to be honest.
Yeah, you mentioned they just didn't have enough quality in the end, and they pushed Leeds close, and to push a side that's tipped to be up the other end of the table from what Hull KR predicted.
Yeah.
It's positive signs if they can produce that sort of performance against the likes of your Widnesses, your Catalans, and the Salford's team that's going to be in and around you. Even the likes of, say, Warrington and Huddersfield we just mentioned, sides that on the day can be beaten. And you wouldn't bet against a KR side if they produce that sort of tough performance. They could pick up a few points this year and not surprise people in terms of being up there, but just do well enough to start building on that side again.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of positives to take on the game, and I thought Ryan Shaw did well. Yeah. Ryan Shaw did well on the edges, and a lot of the thing was before the season. Obviously, got injured in the whole derby. Was Danny Addy, who was meant to be Maguire's halfback partner. Obviously, he went down. He's out for the season. Chris Atkin came in, made his Super League debut. I thought he looked very composed, to be fair, for someone who never played at this level before. He fitted straight in for me, and after seeing the result against Wakefield week 1, I was a little bit worried. I thought if Rhinos came out like we know they can, they could blow them away. But KR they held tough, and if it not been for some good performance from Leeds, Jack Walker again was excellent at fullback. He makes a couple of try saves and things like that. It could be a different game. There's only 11 points in it at the end. It's 2 scores, so not a million miles away.
Yeah, and you mentioned the travelling support from the KR side. There was 16,000 at Ellen Road, which is it's a huge crowd really for that game, and I'm
sure it'll have been the biggest crowd of the week by a fair distance.
Yeah, it beats the Hull and Wigan one down in Australia, which was impressive in its own right. But to get that many fans there was very impressive
on a Thursday night as well. Yeah, I think that's the big thing. I think if you had that on the Friday night, you're probably looking at 18, 19. Yeah. For a Thursday night in the cold and wet, windy conditions, in full credit to the Leeds fans and KR fans turning out. I think the record I read, Leeds' biggest crowd last year at Headingley was when they played Castleford. They had 18,000 at Headingley. I think Leeds play Castleford next month, and in the other game at Ellen Road, I can see them topping that. I believe that's a Friday night. It could be looking at 20,000 there, and it's good for the games. I think there was a bit of a worry, be on Sky Sports. How would it look?
A lot of empty seats was the fault.
Exactly. How would it look Thursday night? You're watching the darts. You turn on to the rugby. Am I going to stay on this if I look at an empty Ellen Road? Probably not. But it looked decent on TV. Plenty of fans in there. Can't fault it. The experiment's kind of working.
Yeah, did very well. On to a game that didn't do so well. On the Friday night, we saw the Wakefield Trinity take on Salford Red Devils. Wakefield grabbing a 2-point win. Final score 14-12. And Gareth O'Brien, hero to 0.
Bless him.
Always been remembered for that drop goal.
Yeah.
But 3 missed goals, and all of them missed by a matter of inches, really.
Yeah, he was unlucky, wasn't he? They were wide out as well. But difficult kicks.
That's what makes the game a matter of inches, and you've lost the game, and that's what it turned out to be. A try more than Wakefield, but Wakefield grabbed the win.
Yeah, I sat down Friday night, really looking forward to this one. I thought, I was really excited to see how Wakefield. I heard so much about Wakefield. Obviously saw in back end of last year how well they were playing. I thought, right, I'm really excited to see Wakefield, see what they can do against a Salford side, which down in week 1 by Wigan, hammered by quite a few points. Is a chance for Wakefield to really shine on the big stage here, and it was dull, wasn't it? It was really quite dull for 80 minutes. It just wasn't that impressive, to be honest. There was a few decent performances from Wakefield. I thought Miller did well, Griggs played well. The thing that baffles me, I said before we went on air, you've got probably the most exciting winger in Super League at the moment in Tom Johnston, and they just didn't go his way. It was really strange. I think any other team, you had a player like that in such good form, you'd be going to his side every single time. And honest to God, I cannot think of more than 1 or 2 occasions where they actually played it left. You got Tupu on that side as well. It's a strong 3/4 line, and they just didn't really threaten Salford on that side, which baffled me, to be honest.
Yeah, no, neither side impressed me really in that game. There was flurries from both sides in which they scored their tries.
It was just a real forward battle, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's what the conditions that this time of the year sort of angle you towards.
You can say the same for pretty much all the games this week.
It's sort of like seeing this tough period out. Everyone's getting back to fitness. The grounds are boggy. It's hard work on the legs, and it's just about all these games are pretty much this week. Every game was a real battle between every single side. As you mentioned, Scott Griggs stood out. Very impressive performance, and is really a staple of that side. Yeah. But Wakefield, they've done enough to grab the win, but we would like to see, as you mentioned, the more exciting, expansive side of that team.
For sure.
Get the likes of Jacob Miller and Liam Finn swinging the ball out to your Tom Johnstons and just sort of set it alive for us.
One thing as well, and I noticed it more so this game on the Sky coverage, the voting for the man of the match. What do you make of it?
Well, it was when the commentators said they gave the 4 options and he said, "Who's your man of the match?"
After 65 minutes, yeah.
Yeah. And someone turned around.
In a game which we've said not a great deal happened. Yeah. Griggs had done all right, but there was no standout player in that game.
When a commentator turns around and goes, "Oh, well, someone in the last 5 minutes might pop up with a game-winning, play, and he deserved man of the match," and whoever the lead commentator was, I'm not so sure, kind of went, "Well, no, that's not how it works. These are your 4 choices." Yeah. It doesn't work, really bode well.
It's just a marketing ploy to get people on the whole league app, isn't it? But I suppose if the RFL is making some advertising off that app and it feeds into the clubs, then it's a necessary evil. But can we have a different system, please? Because just list the players. If you're going to do that, just list all the players. Don't give us an option of 4.
No, it works on Twitter polls by the clubs in the last 5 minutes of the game.
Like we've done it on our Twitter and that worked, but not when it's the official man of the match where there's things on the line there. It's Let's not do it, please.
No, for me, it just when you're asking a commentator and he comes out with saying, "Well, I don't think any of them 4 choices are mine. I'm going for this person," and you say, "Well, you can't have him." You might think he played well, but no, he's not one of these.
Can you just
4.
imagine watching Manchester United versus Chelsea and Martin Tyler after 70 minutes goes, "Right, there's 4 players here. It's 0-0, by the way. There's 4 players here. We think we might have stood out a little bit. To pick your man at match." Then it ends 3-3, and 2 hat-tricks by 2 players are not on the list. Don't work, does it?
No.
And it's the exact same thing. So
no, I think
let's change that.
But
please.
to be fair to it, it is new.
It's new.
Yes. It needs a bit of work.
Much like the video ref video, which doesn't always show up.
And also makes it look even more like a lottery. I've mentioned that several times.
Yes.
Not the biggest fan of it.
But it's new.
As
you keep saying.
It's new. We'll work on it. Move on to Saturday's games now. And over in France, St Helens took on Catalans and down the Dragons, 21-12 victory for the Saints side, who again showed glimpses of what they produced in the opening week to a lesser extent, but still the first minute of the game, Barber breaks through, Lomax in support, and I was sat there at home going, "Hey up, it's going to be another blowout here." But to be fair to the Dragons, they stayed there, they showed a bit of resilience and showed maybe it's not all as bad as it seemed after the Widnes match.
Yeah, Catalans, they kind of hung tough a little bit, didn't they? And they showed up this week. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, they had to the first home game, that kind of thing, against a side which, at the end of the day, a side which really could have put them to the sword. Or there was the feeling that it could well, like you say, we could have been looking at an absolute blowout, based on what they did to Castleford week 1. As far as Saints go, they did the job. Did the job well. It's tough to go over to Catalan and win. They did that well. Managed the game well. I think, in terms of your spine, I think they've pretty much got it now.
I think I'm still a bit sceptical of Johnny Lomax.
Yeah, I think I know you look at like a bit of a. It's just that first minute, but in terms of the try that they scored and just the link up and stuff, it just when it's working, it really really works.
For me, his backup play's always been when he was our number 7, his backup play was brilliant. It's just, does he have someone outside him who's got that creativity? And in these first 2 games, you've got to say yes.
Yes.
Danny Richardson, as much as Ben Barber's been the standout player, for me, if you look beyond that, there's no one else you're looking at apart from Richardson, who showed maturity beyond his years at the moment.
Just full credit to Holbrook and just Holbrook.
He's given him the chance to leave, more than taking it. To
leave Matty Smith out of out of one of them 6 and 7 shirts for the first 2 weeks of the season, it takes a bit of bottle, I think, just because of what he's done in the game, stuff like that, and he's really, he's kind of hitched his wagon to Danny Richardson, and credit to him. Credit to him. You cannot fault him. His goal kicking is excellent as well.
Yeah, he's proved his decision right. As you mentioned, his goal kicking kicked 4 from 4, I think.
Yeah.
And
he's only missed 1 so far this year. So.
Yeah, and that one went over. Just saying.
Don't matter. We lost by enough.
A drop goal in there as well. He's showing it wasn't necessarily needed, but he recognised that there's a danger in this game.
Yeah.
They was down to 12 men. Morgan Knowles red card in the game, deservedly for me.
Yeah.
You say, oh no, it's not a red card. He didn't sort of mean it to happen, but if that happens to Knowles from a Catalans player, I'll be sat here going,
yeah, exactly.
That was a disgraceful tackle. So deserved red card for him. But as we mentioned, back to Danny Richardson, he recognised that Catalans were showing the strength and it wasn't threatening to score so many points, but he recognised that, hit the drop goal, just settled the side down, and for me, a very impressive performance from the youngster.
Yeah.
But in terms of the team, I think it's another sign, they're not always going to have the easy games, but if you can win these games, these may matter even more sometimes.
These are the games top sides need to win.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
And then the big one of the weekend, down under. Wollongong. Wigan Warriors took on Hull FC in Australia. Wigan ended up 24-10 winners. And it was a proper English game. Bit scrappy.
Yeah.
Bit of the old Biff involved. But a treat for the Australian fans.
Yeah, I think it's probably the most Super League game I've seen, to be honest. It's like a bit of rain down there. I went all the way to Australia and it rained. Like I say, it was scrappy. There was errors. There was quite a lot of handling errors, to be fair. It wasn't the highest standard, to be honest, but they seem to love it because in amongst these errors, the Aussie fans are treated to some real moments of brilliance, really. I mean, Liam Marshall, credit to him, he's quick.
Very quick. I never realised, and I was just watching the highlights the other day, and I think his second try where he just looks at Jake Connor and goes, all right then, I'm going to go outside you. And
yeah, Jake Connor should not have shown him the outside.
He looks like he's running in
Jake
sand.
Connor already filling in on the wing after the early injury LFC had. You're not a winger anyway. Do not show a fella like Liam Marshall, who scored second most tries in the league last year. Don't show him the outside when he's got that much room, because he's going to make you look stupid, to be honest. And he did.
Yeah, absolutely running a sandbox there. And as you mentioned, Liam Marshall with the magic to win his side, the Kenny Sterling Shield down under.
Can we just discuss the Kenny Sterling Shield, by the way?
Go on.
Have you seen it?
I have seen it.
Have you seen what's written on it?
I have seen it, but I don't remember what's written on it.
Right, so it's a big, almost like Aboriginal style shield.
Yeah.
It's quite cool, to be fair. I like the idea of it. But whoever's designed it wrote on it, Wigan to commemorate Wigan Warriors vs Hull FC. Win Stadium, Wollongong, to commemorate the first Super League game outside of the UK. That is what's written on it. Now, unless I'm mistaken, and Perpignan is actually just on like the outskirts of Huddersfield or something.
Yeah.
That's not the case, is it? That's really not the case. In fact, the very first Super League game was outside the UK in Paris. So, whoever designed that, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Outside of Europe, yeah, we're getting there.
But you know what I'm going to say, don't you?
Go on.
It's new.
Well, it's new.
It's a new job.
We're working on it. We'll work on it.
We'll work on it. We'll
The thing is, though,
year.
they announced it. I think they showed off the shield on like Monday or Tuesday, and there's pictures around. So people noticed. There was plenty of tweets about it. It was caught up on straight away, and they didn't change it. The game wasn't until Saturday. They had a chance to change it, surely.
But it's new.
It's it's new, and it's going to be sat in the DW Stadium for a long time. So everyone's got to have a look at it.
Yeah, it's just another sort of string to the bow, isn't it? If we can say, oh, look at this,
Yeah.
Hull FC and Wigan have had a field day marketing this trip, and
Yeah.
as far as the expansion went, it was fairly successful. 12,000 fans watching in the stadium. Give the Australians a bit of whetted their appetite ahead of the season starting, and there was a strong following from the English sides going over there.
Yeah, I mean, Hull FC, you either get Wigan as well, but I think especially Hull FC deserve a mention. I think they're renowned for taking big away followings. As I say, I'm more used to Castleford. Hull, other than KR, Castleford tends to be Hull's pretty much closest away, even though it's like 50, 60 miles. It's Hull's pretty much closest away game. So they kind of make a really big deal about coming to Castleford, which is fair enough. And they've brought 4,000 or 5,000 before, and that's impressive in itself. But taking 4,000 or 5,000 to like Sydney, effectively, is pretty crazy, to be honest. And just fair play. I said to get 12,000 as well. Obviously, a lot were from Wigan and Hull, but a lot of locals in there, probably a few expats as well. But 12,000. That's bigger than any attendance Wigan and Hull got last year in the UK. So if that's not success, I don't know what is.
Yeah, huge props to both sides, and in Australia as well for marketing the game. Clearly did a good job of it, and got a very, very big showing for that.
Yeah, in terms of media as well, I think I read this morning in the Illawarra papers around there, it was front page news. It's been front page news all week, which is brilliant. It's just the exposure Super League wanted. It wasn't the best game in the world, but even though it wasn't the best game, it's still it's markedly different to an NRL game. A Super League game and an NRL game looks very different. I think anyone knows even a little bit about rugby league can tell that just by watching it. So it provided something a little bit different, and went down a treat, I think.
Yeah, and obviously ahead of the World Club Challenge.
Yeah.
Just again pushes that out a little bit.
Yeah.
Whets the appetite for that. We'll come on to that later. But we'll finish the roundup of the Super League games, and I'm sure you're going to love this one. Sunday's game finished the round off. It was Castleford Tigers versus Widnes Vikings. 13-12 to the Tigers. You're finally on the board.
Finally on the board.
Got some points.
Finally, he says. It's round 2. Finally. But yeah, Cass got the win. Scrappy is the word, I think.
Cold and scrappy.
Cold is the other word. Very, very. I've only just thought. I think it's very, 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 very cold yesterday. One of the strangest games I think I've seen down there in a quite a long time. I've not felt an atmosphere like that for a while. There was over 7,000 in there. It wasn't a small crowd, and for the first half, ended. It was 4-0 at half time. Greg Minnikin scored right at the death. It was the final play. But until then, at 0-0, it was just. You could hear a pin drop. Castleford's renowned as quite an atmospheric ground. It's probably in terms of how it's been built and over the years. It's so close to the ground, close to the field, should I say? It's one of the loudest in the league, and it was definitely quiet. There was a real kind of nervousness about it after week 1, and I think that kind of fed its way into the players a little bit. It was, fair play to Widnes. I think they didn't offer a great deal in attack for me. They scored the 2 tries, 2 quite soft ones, I would say. But that's just as fault. Castle's defence not quite up to it there. But I think defensively, Widnes were very, very good, and they can take some real positives from that. Yeah,
showing the not going to lie down easily this year and sort of be pushed over as many people thought that they would.
I think Betts has put a real chip on the shoulder this year. The young side, that he's kind of beat it into them in the changing room. But right, no one thinks you're anything. Go and prove that you are.
And we've mentioned that. I think we mentioned it last week. The underdog status can be really sort of a positive for a side and a danger to everyone else, because they go, well, we've got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
We can go out and play. If we get beat, it's not against us. Everyone goes, oh, well, the better side, it was expected. But if they come out and they start grabbing the wins and these close losses, it's even that's a bit of a positive. If you'd have put this scoreline up last year, you'd have gone, wow.
Yeah. And I think you can reverse that for Castleford as well. I think last year, even after Castleford were decent in 2016, I think they ended up coming 4th or 5th. But even last year, even after a few wins last year, even if we beat Warwick in early doors, things like that, there was still a bit of an underdog tag, I think, and probably until we beat Leeds, until we smashed Leeds, that 66-10 game. I think even until then, there was still a bit of an underdog tag on Castleford. It was just like, oh, when's the bubble going to burst? It's not going to last forever. They're just doing what Widnes did the year before. Obviously, after getting to the grand final, doing so well, Castleford no longer have that. Castleford have got a target on the back now, and it's new. It's completely new for the club. It's never really happened before, to be honest. So I think it is a bit of a feeling out process, which it explains Darryl Powell's comments in the post-match presser. You just kind of chill out. This is not going to be the same kind of year as last year. They're just going to kind of feel the way into the league, and they're not going to win every week, but you don't have to win every week. So.
No, as it's been shown many times in the past, as long as you're in that top 8 and the top 6, really, anything can happen from there.
Sure.
And it's still very early doors.
Oh yeah.
All the teams are still sort of finding the way out. You're always going to have them teams that hit the ground running, and you're always going to have the teams that take a little bit of time to sort themselves out. That's it for the roundup of the Super League games. On to the Championship now, and we'll kick it off again with the Wolfpack, but for a different reason.
Mm-hmm.
This week, held to an 8-all draw at Barrow, and with the talent in that Wolfpack squad, that's a huge result for a Barrow side.
What a result! What a result that is. I heard about it yesterday afternoon. I thought it was a misprint, to be fair, 8-all. It was funny. Toronto tweeted out, I think it was Thursday or Friday, that they were glad the game is being played in Barrow because the conditions in Toronto were shocking. So like 30 centimetres of snow or something like that. I read it. I'm thinking, the conditions aren't going to be that much better in Barrow. I mean, you're being a bit optimistic here, I think. But massive result. I mean, look at the two lineups, and there's what appears to be quite an obvious disparity in talent, and top level experience. But it just shows what a bit of grit and determination can really get you in this league. I think Toronto probably weren't expecting a well drilled Barrow side like they faced, and what a result for the Raiders.
And many people said it could be a bit easy for that Toronto side this year.
Yeah.
But not as easy as everyone thought out after this. I think, League One's sort of a completely different dynamic to the Championship for me. League One, you've got tough, strong opposition.
Yeah.
But Championship, you've got well-drilled, tough to break down sides.
There's some good sides now this year.
And for Toronto, who play this expansive rugby, they want to play, and if a team doesn't let them, it's not good. There's going to be times this season where they're going to play the likes of Barrow and other teams and struggle a little bit. And, you look at, as we mentioned, the quality of that side, and there's players that have played Super League in the past 1 or 2 seasons, and you think, they should be able to break that side down, but flip that coin and you say, what a win for Barrow, or what a result for Barrow, pardon.
For sure. You just do wonder, you don't really know the Toronto's mindset. After beating Lee last week, such a big result that was, maybe there was a feeling, right, we've beaten Lee, we've beaten Lee away, we've got the tough game of the season right out of the way, round 1. It's going to be kind of plain sailing from here, but if that is how they're thinking, they're going to be very mistaken. There's sides in this league, Barrow proved it, but further up the league, your teams that have looked impressive so far, your Londons, Featherstones, even Halifax, they're going to turn them over if Toronto don't turn up. Especially, Featherstone been very impressive by all accounts. So.
Yeah. The 4 teams you mentioned, they're all winning at the weekend as well. London with a 12-0 victory over Dewsbury Rams. Featherstone took down Toulouse 36-18. Halifax down Sheffield Eagles 30-10. And the Lee Centurions beat Batley 34-6. And it's a very strong championship competition this year that we mentioned last week. But even more so now, we're looking at it and we're thinking, Toronto last week sort of looked like they could sort of run away with that top spot a little bit.
Yeah.
But if they don't, it's a very dangerous game for them.
I'll tell you something. If these kind of 3 or 4 sides which you're mentioning can kind of peak at the right time of the season, which is going to be the key, if they're still in this kind of form when we get to August, September, these Super League sides are going to be lingering down the bottom. They're going to have to be on it when the middle eights come around, because there's going to be some big old games in there. And if there is Super League sides who are kind of really slipping as they get into the qualifiers, they could be in a spot of bother, because the likes of Everton, Toronto, Lee, they're going to be right up there. They're going to be challenging.
Yeah, and it makes for some great viewing, really. And you mentioned the coverage of the championship isn't up, but for those involved and working around that, for us as fans, it makes for something good to be excited about, and to have a strong championship competition can therefore only sort of make Super League stronger as those teams build up and start to challenge Super League teams more. It's time for them to build on now. Yeah,
and as much as your expansionists would like to see Toronto at the top, followed by Toulouse probably, wouldn't it be quite nice to see Featherstone and Halifax or teams like that, that ilk kind of around the top.
Give it a right crack at the top.
Yeah, exactly. The teams who have been kind of looked down upon, I think, a little bit in the last few years. You kind of met heartland teams in favour of, like, say, your Torontos, your teams further afield. It would be quite something if one of the teams from the M62 corridor or something like that really give it a proper dig this year and got on the brink of Super League.
Yeah, and that's round up for the championship done. Move on to next week's fixtures. Just the 3 games. So 3 of the bottom 4 from last year involved. Hull KR taking on Catalans and Widnes taking on Warrington. I think this is the start of a few derby games for Warrington coming up. You might need to just double check that, but I think there is a few sort of Wigan incoming involved soon. And for me, the Widnes Warrington one is a really interesting matchup. I'd like to see that one go down. Yeah,
I mean, I think if you looked at that fixture probably 3 weeks ago, you'd have gone, well, Warrington are going to win by 20, 30 points. I think that was the general consensus. Widnes are the worst team in the league. Warrington are going to be up there. Is what it is. Look at it now. Warrington facing a 2-game slide. Not desperate for a win, but teams are saying Castleford were like desperate for a win yesterday.
Yeah.
So in the same vein, you got to think, well, Warrington have now lost 2. Maybe they are desperate for a win to kind of get them on track. So they're going to be, well, they've struggled and they're going to be really trying to cling on to that. And then you look at Widnes, a win and a loss, but plenty of confidence to take from that. They've had a good win against Catalan, a solid win against Catalan, and then to lose to the league leaders from last year by just a single point. And I mean, anyone didn't see the game. Gilmore had 2 shots at a drop goal with about 5 minutes to go. That could have very easily been 1 point the other way if they kicked both of them. So Widnes could well be 2 wins up now and looking for a 3rd one. It's not the way we thought it was going to go, but it makes for a very interesting Cheshire derby next Friday.
Yeah, and dangerous times for the Warrington Wolves, not so much with needing to pick up the points, but, the pressure starts to build, and it starts to build within that side when 1 or 2 of them are going, oh, well, it's not going our way, and, we need to start performing and come up against a Widnes side who, as you said, they've got a bit of confidence. They know that they're going to need to scrap this year, and that's what they've done so far, and it's worked for them. So going into this game, I'd say they're still probably underdogs if you compare the 2 sides.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised to see a close game there. So naturally, Warrington are going to turn on the style and absolutely batter them now. I've said that.
Sorry, Widnes fans. We do that. Sorry.
But an exciting match up there, and for me, the other one's pretty much the same. That's going to be...
Yeah, I can't call that.
I can see that one being a close game. If Catalans turn out like they did against Saints, then there's every chance they're going to win. But you can say that for the OKR side, as they did with Leeds.
This league's just going to be strange this year, isn't it? I think looking at it now, 2 weeks in, it's going to be a really difficult league to predict this year. We said, I think I'd look at that and go, well, as we said, week 1, the Cacom Craven Park's a very difficult place to go. Thursday night, it's going to be cold, it's going to be horrible. Catalan aren't going to fancy it. But then you wouldn't have thought Wakefield would have fancied it week 1. They went and turned them over. So, and like I say, Catalan hit a little bit of form, I think you can say, against St Helens in making it competitive at least. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Hull both sides need a win, don't they, with 2 game slides.
Yeah, but I just think, both sides have the potential. It's just about putting it together for a full match. And for me, it's either going to go one of 2 ways, Either both teams are going to lock horns and it's going to be a close match and a really gritty one, or the danger that, Catalans, they don't necessarily travel well, and we've seen that week 1 against the Widnes side. And if they do that again, and Hull KR, put together a bit of the play that they had against Leeds, then it could be a real positive for them. But that's it. No, it's not.
There's quite a big one left.
Yeah, quite a big one left. Jumped the gun a bit there. The World Clubs Challenge. Leeds travel to take on the Melbourne Storm. Leeds have got a bit of a head start over the Storm, 2 weeks into their domestic competition, whereas Melbourne yet to kick theirs off. They played a few trial games. But how do you think Leeds will fare in that game?
They've had a head start, but I think they could have done with a bigger one, to be honest, based on what I saw on Thursday night. I listened to Proper Sport Radio during it, and Gary Schofield said, he predicted Melbourne to win by 24. And that's a Leeds legend, saying that. So, it's tough to say. As you say, the NRL season hasn't started yet, so it's tough to say what kind of shape Melbourne are going to be in. But based on watching them last year, and based on what Leeds served up on Thursday night, where they were a Jimmy Kynhorst away from potentially losing that game, to be honest. They've got. You can look at it 2 ways. I think you can base it on that performance and say they've not got a chance, or I think you can look at the other way and when maybe it wasn't the most professional, but maybe they had one foot on the plane going into that game, thinking about the trip to Melbourne and the sun, which is understandable. But Leeds at their very, very best can at least give them a game. I'm not entirely convinced they can beat Melbourne, but they've got the potential to make it a close one.
Yeah, I think, similarities between the 2 teams. They both lost the big playmaker, Cooper Cronk, obviously, going over to the Sydney Roosters. It'll be interesting to see who fills that gap for him. There's the likes of Cameron Munster and Brodie Croft who are sort of probably going to battle that out this year. But I said absolutely packed with stars, that Melbourne team. And if they turn up, then, 24 points. If you lose 24-12 to a star-packed Melbourne side, you go, oh, it's not the end of the world. As long as the game is competitive for me. There was the year when South Sydney took on St Helens and battered us, and a lot of the English teams were on the end of big defeats, and it's not what the game needs. I think to keep the World Club Challenge alive, Leeds need to put in a performance for me. And will they do that? Will Joel Moon come back into that side and sort of spark up that 6-7 partnership with Myler? Will they be able to compete with the Melbourne side? Who knows? For me, there's a lot of questions about this game.
Yeah, it's on Friday, I think, isn't it? It's Friday this week, Friday morning. Which is a bit of an interesting one, Friday morning game, but we'll see. Just look at it in terms of the final result, what you think it's going to be, and it's just, I'm a terrible gambler. I am.
Helplines are available.
Yeah, but if you're not backing a side with Cameron Smith in it, then you might be worse than me. To be honest, I think you've got to question it. I think there's just too much star power in that Melbourne side. And as much as they haven't started the season yet, they're kind of coming towards a bit of a crescendo now, not too far away. It'll take something at AAMI Park as well.
Yeah,
It's tough. Leeds will have to come out with something pretty out of the ordinary, to be honest, if they're going to beat Melbourne.
Yeah, it's a tough ask for the Leeds side, but a great experience. as always, for the fans.
Yeah,
and
nice,
for the game.
Nice that Australia's actually taking on the World Cup Challenge rather than shipping it over here as well. They're actually putting something behind it.
Showing a little bit of interest in it, though.
Tiny bit. We'll get there.
Anyway, time for the questions for this week. And we'll start off, and I'll put this one to you.
Yeah, this one's come from Toby Anmore.
Who do you think's the best? The best? Ah, yes.
The best.
The best signing, or will be the best signing ahead of this season. We kind of touched on this a little bit in the previews to the league coming up, but we're 2 rounds in now. A bit more of an educated guess, but still an educated guess at that. Anyone sort of sprung out from the rest for you?
It's a tough one because, frankly, in terms of, I think you look at these first 2 weeks, if you think about real standout players, there's not a great deal, I don't think. Ben Barber at Saints that you can say, but obviously he's not a new signing.
Yeah.
There's not a great deal of real standout players. I think one, and it might surprise, if anyone's listened to episodes before when we did the previews and stuff, this will probably surprise you, coming from me, but potentially one of the best signs going forward, and it pains me to say it because I did nothing but slate him for a few weeks, could well be Richie Myler. Simply, maybe not necessarily because he's going to be a superstar and he's going to be England 7 or anything like that, but he has settled into that side a lot better than I thought he would. A lot better. And he's just, I think settled is the word, he's settled that side when they could have really collapsed after losing Maguire. He's got a lot to do, but off the top of my head right now, I think Richie Myler's going to be with a shout.
Yeah, he's settled the ship there. Interesting, as we mentioned before, to see how we built that partnership with Joel Moon and see how they move forward.
Yeah.
The early weeks are probably the easiest he's going to get it. If he starts building up a bit of form and starts linking with the likes of Jack Walker out the back, it could be a good sign for him this year.
Can I just say what it's definitely not going to be?
Go on.
Dan Sargentson.
Dan Sargentson.
Awful. Sorry, it was terrible. It's absolutely terrible.
I don't think many Wigan fans will disagree with you there.
What were they thinking? Honest to God.
There's a bit of romance bringing him back, but at the end of the day...
They had the romance for Gelling. It was like this. Yeah. He was the man.
They've proved
shameful.
Sort of bringing people back doesn't really work with both Tompkins brothers, really.
Yeah, Joel's past it.
For me, in terms of a best signing for me, more probably going off week 1 than this week, but Bryson Goodwin probably
that's a good shout.
Be my pick. I think week 1 he looked strong in that Warrington backline defensively and going forward, and I think if Warrington can get a bit of a move on in attack, I think he could be a real strike for them down that left side. I think he plays. Obviously they got Ryan Atkins down the other, who's proven for years that on his day he can be quality when he's not doing his gymnastics.
Yeah.
But I think if Bryson Goodwin can get bit of run of steam on, I think he could be a real plus for that Warrington side.
It's a good shout. I'll bring up the next question because I feel like it's a bit of a personal attack on me, so I need a bit of time to collect my thoughts. This one's come from Connie Hughes, and it's do you think Wakefield have the potential to be the best side in West Yorkshire this year?
I'll let you answer that one as well.
No. You're going first.
We spoke about it a bit before, and we kind of ummed and ahed and then went, well, actually, yeah, In
terms of potential, yeah.
Potential, it's a big word, potential, It's
a very vague word, isn't it?
It's pointing out there and saying, it could happen. And, as we mentioned, they've got a talented squad there. And if they start all linking up and chiming up well, much like Casper did last year, if they can get a bit of momentum going and a bit of steam, as we've seen them do in the past, in feeding Johnston that ball, then there's nothing really that could stop them. And, it's an exciting time for that battle at the moment.
Yeah, I think just for the Wakefield Salford game on Friday, I looked down Trinity's team list, and it's impressive. The depth that they have is really genuinely impressive, and it's something the Wakefield side has not had for a very long time, I think. Like I say, in terms of potential, can they be the best side of West Yorkshire this year? Can they top that? I believe there is a trophy as well for the which was gifted by the Army to the best side of West Yorkshire. Castleford currently hold that. I think potentially they could do if Chesney gets them playing the way he has at times, and they can do it consistently. then for sure, if they play the way they did against Hull KR week 1, can't see why not. However, they can't have too many games like they did against Salford, because at the end of the day, Gareth O'Brien missed 3 kicks there. That's 6 points. Yeah. I hate to bring up O'Brien again, poor lad. Angelo Powers absolutely had his pants down, unfortunately, after the game. But they need to cut out performances like that, and they need to be a bit more expansive. I think maybe just be a little bit braver, because they've got the talent there, and like I said, use the left hand side. In terms of the best side in West Yorkshire, that leaves 3 other sides, because Huddersfield as well, obviously. Huddersfield, like I said, we called them dark horses earlier in the season. Their side, again, they're not too dissimilar to Wakefield in a lot of ways, I think, in terms of a side with quite
talent in the side.
A lot of talent, a fair bit of depth, probably maybe not quite as much as Trinity, but again, they've just turned over a relatively big fish at home in Warrington. If they can keep that kind of home form going, then that's a difficult place to go at times, as John Smith's.
Yeah. If you can get a roll on in that squad, as you mentioned, with the players they've got, again, why couldn't they be? We're saying the potential, can they? Why couldn't they?
Yeah.
In the end,
I think, like I say, just mentioned Leeds quite a bit. Leeds was very, very good at grinding out results.
Yeah, they know how to play the game.
Yeah, I don't think it's quite clicked for them yet. I think at some point it probably will click for Leeds, and they're going to be a top side this year. I've seen enough in this. I was a bit doubtful before the start of the season, but I've seen enough in these first 2 weeks, which proves I think they can do that, and also the talent in that side. I mean, like I said, Jack Walker's. I mentioned Brad Barber, really. I forgot about Jack Walker. He's probably has been one of the other standout players.
Yeah.
At the first 2 weeks, an exceptional young fullback, and there's serious talent in that side. Leeds, if they can kind of screw it all together, they're going to be a side to beat. And then you got Castleford, who at this point, who knows really? Castleford again could just, if they can get a bit of consistency together, get that kind of side together every single week. Jamie Ellis came in yesterday, who was very good, I thought. A bit unfortunate with Jake Truman, to be fair, he missed out for a concussion, but Ellis came in, his kicking game was excellent. That's something he really adds to us this year, I think. I think the forward pack for Castleford was a hell of a lot better yesterday as well. Adam Milner was absolutely outstanding, as was Ollie Holmes as well. I think Ads Milner, I'd say, is potentially knocking on the door. There was talk of it last year, but I think knocking on the door of England place this year. I really do think if he keeps that consistently well, if he keeps that consistent level, with O'Loughlin getting too old as well at 13. I think of those 4 sides, all of them potentially can be the best side in West Yorkshire this year. Huddersfield probably the rank outsider, you would say.
Yeah, agree with that.
I mentioned it a few weeks ago. There's just some really exciting West Yorkshire derbies to come. I think we're not going to really see it until they all start playing each other. I'm not sure when Wakefield play Huddersfield, but the first one may well be Leeds vs Castleford at Ellen Road. That'll be a big, big, big game. March 23rd.
Yeah, and as we've mentioned a lot today, there's a lot of competition there, and it's an exciting time. There's no real giveaway results between the sides. It's all ifs and buts, as it is normally at the start of the season, but this one a bit more. It's a very, very close competition. You look at all the sides and you say there's talent in all the sides throughout, and it bids for a very tough competition this year.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all we've got time for this week. Please leave a like, comment and subscribe. Comment anything down below, questions for next week, keep them coming. But for now, thank you for joining me, Ross.
Pleasure as always.
And we'll see you all same time next week.